welcome back to Max Talk. The big question today is, how safe is tactical live fire training? And by which I mean, when you get off the flat range and you actually get onto tactical ranges and you're actually conducting small unit tactics drills. And I guess one of the answers is, well, it depends. It depends who's running it, and it depends how it's set up. But first, you've got to understand that if you're building the full warrior, you've got to get off the flat range. You can't just be doing pew-pew shooting drills on the flat range, because that's not where combat happens. If you're going to train for combat, if you're going to build the warrior, then you've got to go off the flat range and do some real scenario, situational training, small unit tactics, running your drills, running your team drills, etc. in a realistic environment. So we've got to do it. So how do we make it safe? Well, at Max Velocity Tactical, and in particular the VTC, which has been designed for the purpose, but of course this also applies to when we do mobile classes, we are all about safety. I've had so many comments from guys who've trained, all sorts of law enforcement, military, public ranges, all that kind of stuff, and just saying how safe it is and how well run it is at Max Velocity Tactical, because we're professionals and it's what we do. You can be forgiven for thinking otherwise, though. For example, if you go to a public range and you're on there's a whole bunch of guys. I mean, if very much it's you don't know what you don't know. If you were to have no idea about what we do at Max Velocity Tactical, and then you went to a public range and you thought, well, let me just translate this to like dudes in the woods running around. It's almost like it's going to be like a force-on-force, environment for real. Like we're all shooting at each other. It's just crazy. And I can understand that. And another factor is, sometimes I'll post a YouTube video and I get comments for guys that haven't trained yet that they didn't really understand what was going on. I mean, it's a video. It's always hard to understand what's going on in a video because you don't have true perspective of actually being there. And then it's like, are the guys like shooting at each other? What's going on? Like these guys are over here and these guys are over here. And it looks like they're shooting at each other. And that's obviously clearly not what's happening. So hopefully today I can dispel some of that. Now there are multiple strands to how we keep things safe at Max Velocity Tactical. We've been operating the VTC for 5 years. We've never had an accident, touch wood. So we take it very seriously. And the strands are, and these apply on the flat range and then moving out onto the tactical ranges. And very much the way we operate it is that we are building from the very beginning, we're building safety into what we do as we train you. For example, on Heat 1, 2 days on the flat range, we're building up to it and then we're moving that out onto the flat range. So what are the various strands that we employ? Also, there can't be anything like some of this range Nazi stuff like 180 rules and all that kind of stuff. We've got it taken care of because we're training you for an actual operational environment, a situation where you have to move around with your weapons. And so we can't have that, but we have ways to mitigate the risk. But if you have some kind of 180 rule, you just can't conduct any kind of realistic training. It just doesn't work. So when I designed the VTC, Velocity Training Center, and also when I go and run mobile classes, I apply my training to make it correct as a proper live firing range. So, for example, I am qualified as at stage 5 field firing, which is a British Army qualification I got back when I was an infantry officer, which was to plan and conduct and design ranges up to sort of battalion level with multiple different weapon systems and make it safe as per with all safety angles and distances, etc. So I apply that when I am designing digging target pits and designing various sort of movement lanes, whether at the VTC or on mobile classes. So I did a video just recently on tactical decision making and a hasty attack, and I used some footage of Idaho doing a squad hasty attack. And if you go look at that, you'll see that we've got shift fire targets. And I explained in that how we will shift fire earlier than we would do operationally, because we're building in a safety angle. So we're moving the fire away from the objective as we get another element coming into the objective. So we're always maintaining a safety angle, which keeps the fire away. So that's kind of like a group level, macro level. So all those kind of things are designed into any kind of iteration you're going to run at the VTC. And we have safety staff that run this. Obviously, we have people behind you, and we are sort of coordinating this. At a very basic level, as we build up, we're drilling in things like, I mentioned that there can't really be a 180 rule. If you're breaking contact away and you're moving away, you're moving back up range, as it were, from the targets, then you can't be sort of holding your weapon back as you go. You've got to be holding your weapon correctly, and you've got to be moving in the direction you're going. And so we teach finger outside the trigger guard at all times. Safety is on at all times unless you are actually engaging the enemy, and the weapons are going to be held down in the patrol ready position at all times when you're not actively engaging a target. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I've actually been criticized for that, like, MVT only does sort of patrol ready, you don't do high ready. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. So obviously we teach that when we're out on the movement ranges. It's not like I haven't done all the different methods in my time over my career. We teach that because when you're out on patrol, that's how you're going to be carrying your rifle. Also, if you fall and you've got your finger outside the trigger guard, you've got your safety on, and the weapon's held down, you're less likely to muzzle someone on the way down. Whereas if you're carrying your weapon up, or up, however you're going to do it, there's more chance that you're going to muzzle someone as you fall down. Alternatively, when we run CQB classes, we're going to do high ready, or we're going to break the weapon up, because it's more efficient in a doorway to break the weapon up. So these are things where people are playing checkers and I'm playing chess. We know the deal, we're professionals here. Okay? And there's reasons why we do things. So we build that into the flat range training, and then our drills are coming from the ready up. They're coming from the patrol ready or the low ready, and they're coming up and we're engaging targets. So it's practical. Nobody patrols around with the weapon in the high ready position. Practical and safe. The other thing is safety angles. Now, I try and explain this to people to get this conceptually into people's minds, because sometimes people have a little bit of difficulty understanding this. But if we're on a flat range, we're generally on a firing line. And if anybody goes forward of the firing line, 3-gun or whatever, it's usually as an individual with safety. So if you're on a flat range, you're on a firing line, and that firing line is safe because everybody's next to each other and we're all shooting down range at targets. Now, the whole point of what we're trying to achieve when we're building up to actually being on patrol and then getting contacted by targets that are wherever they are, might be contact front because we're doing contact front, or it might be contact right. What we're drilling and rehearsing into the students, and then reminding and revising and drilling, is that there are only certain people, I covered this on the RTR drill, that can return fire immediately. I did a talk on the RTR drill, how to react to contact. And what we're basically trying to achieve is when those targets are exposed and we begin the contact, we're basically moving our patrol formation into a firing line. So we're ad hoc creating a firing line out in the woods so that our guys are online, not perfectly online, but online, and then are able to engage the enemy without endangering their buddies. One thing I actually often stress, and I feel the need to do this, is I always tell people that tactical training is not about you. It's about your buddies. And the things that you're doing and staying alive are so that you can keep your buddy alive. And part of that is moving the mindset from the kind of flat range pew-pew training that people do, often as individuals, where it's shot timer, it's how quick, ba 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 ba. And it's this relationship of myself, me, myself, and I, and these targets, this target, these targets. And so what you get is a mindset of, boom, I gotta shoot, 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 shoot. And I've done other talks about this on target discrimination as well. But also, I remind people, we make very much a point of it, that it's not the most important thing to get rounds on target if doing so is going to endanger your buddy, which is why some people can shoot and some people can't shoot. And we hammer this home. And we have a safety angle. So if we're going to then maneuver, I got an email question several years ago from someone, like, on your classes, do people go forward of the firing line? And I was like, yes, it's live fire tactical training. I never heard back. Because the guy doesn't know what he doesn't know. So if we've got this firing line now, and we're going to maneuver it, because we're training you to go forwards or backwards or peel to the flank, because we're doing small unit tactics, tactical drills, then what we're doing is we're going to take that very simple firing line and we're going to move it. And the way we make sure that people don't end up in front of each other is we have safety angles. So just for the sake of it, think of a 45-degree angle. Just think of that. And imagine that your rifle muzzle and the target, and then you've got like a 45-degree angle. And so nobody should be within that angle when you're engaging a target. I also cover this in a tactical manual where I'm talking about live fire safety, and I've got a lot of diagrams in there where I'm talking about, you know, how if the angle of the target shifts and how the line's got to shift, etc. So the safety angle is something that we use to make sure that people don't get in front of each other. So we're basically tying this all in. It's the design of the ranges, it's the crawl, walk, run progression of firearms, weapon manipulation and training of how we do things, and then it's application of rehearsals and building up crawl, walk, run so that people know not to engage in a way that's going to endanger their buddies. And that's what we're all about. It's ultimately what we're all about, because small unit tactics is about application of fire onto the enemy whilst not endangering our own people. Sometimes on, for example, Heat 1, we are not moving around with the weapons down at the patrol ready position, but what we're actually doing is we're moving guns up. And the time we're moving guns up is, for example, when we do the assault through drill, or when we do move fire on more advanced classes. And that is hammered home on the flat range, where we start from individual and move up, teaching shooting on the move, and specifically not shooting on the move, but actually moving on to the assault through drill, which is different from simply shooting on the move. And then we've got guys all going forwards together, guns up, but everybody's on line, and there's specific rules. And that's another reason why, because it's not so easy as you think, and this is why we train and practice it, to move forwards on-line while scanning for targets to the front, whilst making sure that you've got peripheral awareness. And this is another one of those reasons why you got to get off the flat range. We start practicing on the flat range, but then we're doing it out in the woods. I realize that I've probably just downloaded a whole bunch of information that may have gone over some people's heads because you haven't trained and you haven't done tactical training. My point is that we've got it covered. We have all the safety measures in place, both in the way the facility or the ranges are designed, in the way that it's embedded in our culture as professionals, and how we use a crawl, walk, run progression, which is embedding these safety procedures in everything that you do. There's no space for, you know, messing about on our ranges. You know, we're embedding it in everything that we do, so we can build up from the flat range, from the individual to the buddy pair to the team, and then on further courses up to the squad, and being at different angles and having shift fire targets. And it's all designed and built in. And it's also supervised, it's rehearsed, and it's supervised, because when you're going up the ranges, you're going to have cadre behind you. And we can see what's going on, and we can, you know, like finesse it as the range goes on, or we can stop the range if it needs to be stopped. So we are right behind you. We know what you're going to do before you do it. So hopefully that serves as sort of an introduction as to why the ranges at Max Velocity Tactical are probably actually way safer than your local public range. Thanks very much. Talk to you next time. Oh, and I almost forget. So I'm doing these talks, great. What I'd appreciate is if you had the time to do a like, to subscribe, to share these Max Talks. Subscribing is important. Subscribe on YouTube and get the word out. I'm sitting here every day doing these talks, hopefully putting out some good information. And all I'm asking here is that you like, subscribe, share, and pass the word. Thanks very much. Bye.